There comes a moment in every soul's journey, a moment so subtle. It arrives like a whisper in the dark, and yet so thunderous, it shakes the foundation of all you've built your identity upon. That moment is not loud. It does not shout, but it does insist. It insists that you look not outside, not at the world, not at the reasons, not at the past, but inward, to the place that has always been untouched, waiting, eternal. We all carry things we believe we need, old memories we cling to like sacred scriptures, painful stories we've repeated so many times that they've become gospel to our egos, wounds, labels, identities worn like armor yet rusted with time. We carry these things as if they protect us, as if they give us a sense of self. But there is a deeper truth that waits for your courage to awaken to it. You cannot move forward while you are still holding on. Holding on is a gesture of fear, fear that who you are without the past might not be enough. But the soul is not a prisoner of time. It does not dwell in yesterday's sorrow or tomorrow's illusion. It only breathes in the eternal now, and it asks, will you come home to this moment, or will you keep dragging the chains of what no longer serves you? You were never meant to be defined by what happened to you. You are not your trauma, your mistakes, or your grief. You are not the one who was betrayed, abandoned, overlooked. That may be your story, but it is not your essence. Stories are like waves, they rise and fall. But you, the vast ocean beneath them, remain. There is no spiritual growth without release. Just as the tree must shed its leaves to make way for new life, you must let go of what weighs down your spirit. You must become willing to forgive, not because others deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Forgiveness is not a pardon of another's behavior. It is a liberation of your soul from their grip. It is the sacred act of saying, I will no longer carry what was never mine to hold. When you forgive, you reclaim your life from the hands of the past. And only then, only in that holy space of surrender, can something new be born in you. Everything in nature moves forward by letting go. Rivers do not carry old water. The sun does not rise with yesterday's light. And the bird does not fly while clinging to the branch. So why should you, a divine spark of infinite intelligence, live shackled to what no longer lifts you? When you hold on, you are not protecting yourself. You are imprisoning yourself. You are locking yourself in a cage built from the very thing you wish to escape. Anger becomes the bars. Guilt becomes the walls. And regret, the key you refuse to use. But your soul has not forgotten who you are. It is patient, yes, eternally patient, but it longs to see you free. It knows that your true nature is not wounded, not broken, not small. Your true nature is light, expansive, and whole. And the only thing separating you from that truth is the illusion of what you will not release. Imagine a bird with wings wide open, ready to soar, but dragging a stone tied to its foot. That is what it means to live with unhealed pain. No matter how brightly you were born to shine, you cannot rise while you remain tethered. And here is the miracle of life once you begin to release. Once you become willing to set down what you were never meant to carry, a new current begins to move through you. A current of ease, of flow, of divine guidance. It was always there. But cluttered by the noise of attachment, it could not speak. Release is not weakness, it is the ultimate strength. It takes far more courage to let go of what no longer belongs than to cling to the familiar chains. But in that moment, that sacred, trembling, liberating moment when you choose to let go, the universe rushes in to meet you. Not as something outside of you, but as the deeper you that has always been. You will not find healing by revisiting your wounds again and again like a shrine of suffering. Healing is found when you rise above the wound, not when you sit inside it. It begins with a choice, a quiet, sacred choice to surrender, to release the past, not because you have forgotten it, but because you are ready to remember who you were before it. You do not need to carry your childhood like a cross. You do not need to replay the betrayals like a broken record in your mind. You are not the product of your history. You are the awareness that has witnessed it all. What would happen if you stopped holding on? What would happen if you allowed life to carry you instead of trying to drag the dead weight of yesterday behind you? Can you feel it, that breath of freedom, just beyond the tightness in your chest? That lightness that comes not from acquiring more, but from releasing what no longer fits the shape of your becoming? The caterpillar does not mourn the cocoon it leaves behind. It trusts the metamorphosis. It knows, to fly, I must let go. And so must you. And if you listen closely, not with your ears, but with the stillness behind your thoughts, you will hear life itself whispering one sacred instruction. Let it fall away. Let it all fall away. The justifications, the stories, the should-haves and could-haves, the reasons you've rehearsed in your head 1,000 times to keep your suffering intact, let them fall. Because grace cannot pour into clenched fists. Only open hands can receive the miracle. There is a softness in surrender that the ego cannot understand. The ego believes in force and control and keeping score, but the soul knows better. It knows that true transformation never comes from tightening your grip, it comes from loosening it. It comes when you trust that nothing real can be lost and nothing unreal can be held. When you no longer resist what is, a door opens, not out there, but in here, within the sacred chamber of your own awareness. A door that leads to peace, not because everything outside has changed, but because you have changed in relationship to it. The moment you let go of how life should have been, you free life to become something greater than you imagine. So many walk the earth dragging behind them emotional baggage like invisible anchors, unaware that the weight is not required, that it is chosen. But the moment you become aware, truly aware, you become empowered. You realize that your liberation is not found in blaming, not in waiting, not in wishing others had been different. It is found in the unshakable truth that your healing is yours to allow. Nothing outside you has the power to chain you unless you give it permission. And if you gave that permission once, you can revoke it now, not with bitterness, but with clarity, with love. Because the act of letting go is not an act of defiance, it is an act of remembrance. You are remembering who you were before the world told you to be afraid, before you were taught to shrink, to harden, to armor your heart. When you return to that place, that pure, sacred center, you come home not to a new version of yourself, but to the original you, the unconditioned, unlimited, unbound presence that has never been touched by trauma, only hidden beneath it. The spiritual path is not about becoming something else. It is about unbecoming everything you are not. It is about peeling back the layers of anger, of blame, of self-judgment until all that's left is light. You don't have to make yourself worthy. You only have to stop believing that you ever weren't. The divine doesn't ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be present. And presence is impossible when you are busy defending your pain. There is no spiritual awakening without spiritual death. Not the death of your body, but the death of the identities you've outgrown. The death of the belief that you must carry your wounds like credentials. The death of the voice that tells you it's safer to stay broken than to be whole. And yes, there will be grief. Letting go doesn't mean you won't feel. It means you will finally allow yourself to feel cleanly without attachment. It means you will no longer confuse pain with identity. You will no longer decorate your prison and call it home. In the silence after surrender, you may feel empty, but that emptiness is not a void, it is a sacred clearing, a space where grace can enter, a space where joy is no longer conditional and peace is no longer postponed. To let go is to tell the universe, I trust you more than I trust my fear. I trust that what is meant for me will find me. I trust that love cannot be lost, only blocked. And I trust that by releasing what was, I make room for what is becoming. You were not created to be a vessel for resentment. You were not born to be an archive of pain. You are here to transmute, to turn experience into wisdom, loss into compassion, and sorrow into sacred expansion. There is a deeper intelligence at work within you, one that doesn't operate from logic but from divine knowing. It is the same intelligence that turns seeds into forests and wounds into wisdom. But it cannot function when you are clinging to the rubble of the past. Let the ruins be ruins. Let them rest. They have nothing more to teach you. You are not here to repair the past. You are here to redeem the present. Not by force, not by fixing, but by allowing the breath, the moment, the freedom of now. And when you stop gripping the pain like a shield, when you release the story from your hands and open them wide, what flows in is not emptiness, it is radiance. A quiet, shimmering presence that has always been waiting for you beneath the noise. You cannot walk into your future while bowing at the altar of your past. The soul only moves in one direction forward, not in haste, not in resistance, but in trust. So take one step, not out of desperation, but out of devotion to your own becoming. Walk forward not because the past is unimportant, but because you are no longer a servant to it. The soul honors the past by transcending it, not by repeating it. And as you walk lighter now, clearer now, you'll notice something profound. The more you release, the more life meets you with grace. Doors open, hearts soften, the wind moves differently around you. because you are no longer moving through life, life is moving through you. And that is the beginning of freedom. And as the dust of your past begins to settle behind you, you may look back not with bitterness, but with reverence as one does upon sacred ruins. For every pain you endured, every betrayal you survived, every tear you wept in the quiet of your becoming, they were all part of the shedding. They were not punishments, they were passages. They were not blocks, they were invitations to rise. But now you see, there is no need to keep rehearsing the ache. You are not the suffering, you are the sky that held it. You are not the wound, you are the witness. And the moment you remember that, the grip loosens not just on others, but on yourself. Because more than anything, it's often you that you must forgive for not knowing, for holding on too long, for being afraid to let go. But even that is holy. Everything in your life has brought you to this precipice, this sacred edge, where surrender becomes the only honest act left. And when you finally fall into that surrender, you do not fall into despair, you fall into God, into source, into peace so complete it no longer needs to explain itself. There is a deep stillness waiting for you just beyond the threshold of your resistance. It is the stillness of your true nature, the one not striving, not defending, not proving, the one simply being. And in that being, there is nothing to lose, nothing to achieve. There is only the freedom of presence. The irony is we often fear letting go because we think it means we will have less. But the truth is we become less by holding on. We shrink into the identity of our pain, the costume of our past. And it is only by releasing what is no longer aligned that we expand into what we were always meant to be. You were never here to carry burdens that don't belong to your soul. You were never meant to haul around memories like anchors or wear guilt like skin. You were made to be light, to rise, to radiate the love that created you. Letting go does not mean forgetting, it means remembering who you are without the distortion. It means honoring the lesson but discarding the cage. It means no longer letting your history dictate your destiny. There is a vast ocean of peace inside you, undisturbed by the storm above. But to reach it, you must be willing to sink below the surface stories, below the waves of judgment, below the chatter of fear, to the place where God still whispers your name, not as someone broken, but as someone becoming. And the becoming is not loud, it is quiet, like morning light creeping through a window. It is subtle, like the way flowers bloom without asking for attention. It does not demand, it invites. And all it asks is that you trust the process more than the past. So breathe, not just air, but acceptance. Breathe in permission to release, to forgive, to start again. Not because the past was wrong, but because you are right to evolve beyond it. This is not abandonment, this is arrival. Arrival at the truth that your worth was never tied to what you endured. That your power is not in what you survived, but in what you're now choosing. Because life is always giving you a sacred choice. Will you relive or will you renew? The invitation is eternal, but your answer must be present. And in this very breath, you can choose. You can choose to lay down the heavy. You can choose to unfasten the grip. You can choose to step forward into the lightness of now, unburdened and untangled. And if you do, you will realize something remarkable. The moment you stop holding on, you were never lost, only layered, only waiting. And now you are returning. And as you return not to a place, but to your essence, you'll begin to feel a gentle unfolding, like petals once clenched against the cold, now opening to the light of a new dawn. This is what happens when you stop clutching the illusions of yesterday. The truth has space to bloom. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become in the presence of what happened. And what a powerful choice that is, to meet your pain, not with resistance, but with reverence. To look it in the eye and say, thank you for showing me what I am not. Now I remember what I am. The soul is not here to resent, to punish, or to keep score. The soul is here to transmute, to take the heavy and make it holy, to take endings and turn them into beginnings. And it can only do that when you stop dragging yesterday's version of yourself into today's miracle. There is a version of you waiting, not in some far-off place, not after 10 more lessons or years, but now. A version of you who is already whole, already free, already in tune with the rhythm of divine timing, but that version lives on the other side of letting go. Letting go of the need to be right, letting go of the identity wrapped in struggle, letting go of the constant rehearsal of pain as proof of existence. You do not need to suffer to be real. You do not need to ache to be worthy. You only need to remember that worth is not earned, it is inherent. Look around you, truly look, and you will see that all of nature teaches this truth. The trees don't cling to dead leaves out of habit. They release them in trust. The tides don't mourn what they pull away from shore. They surrender to flow. The moon does not fight to remain full. It embraces the dark, knowing fullness will return. This is your invitation to live in rhythm with release. Stop asking the past to give you something it was never meant to offer. It cannot give you closure. It cannot make you feel safe. It cannot affirm your worth. Those are gifts only the present can offer because they were never about the past to begin with. They were about your perception of it. And perception is the one thing you are always free to change. No, you cannot change what happened, but you can change what it means. You can take the old wound and turn it into a doorway, a threshold through which you step not as a victim, not even as a survivor, but as a sovereign soul who has seen the dark and still chooses to shine. And in that choice, you are no longer bound. You are no longer carrying what was never yours to begin with. You are now walking with open hands, with an unburdened heart, with a quiet and fierce clarity. You no longer need to explain, defend, or justify your peace. Peace, once chosen, explains itself. There is a deeper wisdom guiding your life. It is not loud, it is not anxious, it is calm, it is rooted. And it has always known that what is no longer aligned will fall away when you are ready. The only question is, are you? Are you ready to trust that the space created by letting go is not emptiness, but sacred ground? That when you release what you've outgrown, you are not losing anything essential, you are returning to your essence. The future is not waiting ahead of you. It is waiting within you. It unfolds as you soften. It reveals itself as you stop bracing. It blooms when you trust, not that life will always go your way, but that you will always grow, no matter which way it goes. You were not born to hold the pain forever. You were born to move through it, to become light enough to rise. And now you are rising. And as you rise, something beautiful begins to happen. You stop looking for signs outside of you and start noticing the signs within. A softening of your breath, a loosening of that familiar tension in your chest, a clarity in your gaze, no longer clouded by old stories. These are not accidents. These are confirmations, the universe's way of saying, yes, this is the path. Keep going. You begin to feel, not just think, the difference between holding on and holding presence. Holding on demands resistance. It is tight, loud, reactive. But presence is receptive. It is the quiet power of simply being available to what is, without the burden of what was. This is the sacred pivot. The moment your energy turns inward, not in escape, but in embodiment. No longer chasing healing as something outside of you. No longer begging for closure from people who were never meant to finish your sentence. You begin to realize healing was never out there. It was always waiting for your permission here. You were never abandoned by life, only distracted from its whisper. And what it whispers, again and again, is this: you are not your pain, you are the one who transforms it. There is a mystical order to things we do not always understand with the mind, but which the soul recognizes as truth. The people who left, the dreams that dissolved, the chapters that ended, not with clarity but with confusion, all of it was refining you, not punishing you, purifying you. And when you stop interpreting discomfort as something gone wrong and start seeing it as the fire that forges the true, you begin to bless the process instead of curse it. You begin to see endings as openings. You begin to look at what you once called broken and recognize it as breaking open. You cannot carry the weight of old narratives and expect to walk freely into new beginnings. Something must be laid down. Something must be forgiven. Often it's the hardest thing, not others, but yourself, for not knowing better, for staying too long, for believing the lie that you were too much or not enough. But even those moments were sacred. Even your detours were the path. Now you begin again, not as a new person, but as you unburdened, you remembered, you returned. And in this return, you no longer demand perfection of yourself. You no longer ask your younger self to have known what only experience could teach. You no longer shame the version of you that did the best they could with what they knew. You simply love them, and in doing so, you free them. You begin to understand that every moment is a doorway, and you hold the key, not to control what happens next, but to decide how you meet it, with fear or with faith, with tight fists or with open palms, with resistance or with trust. And that trust, that sacred yes to life, becomes the foundation for everything that follows. Because now you are no longer building your future on the rubble of your past. You are building it on presence, on truth, on the peace that comes not from control, but from deep inner allowing. You begin to feel joy again, not the loud performative kind, but the quiet one that sits beside you like an old friend. You begin to feel hope, not as something you reach for, but something that rises from within you. Hope that is not about certainty, but about willingness. The willingness to walk forward not knowing, but knowing you'll walk anyway. This is where transformation begins, not in massive upheavals, but in these subtle soul-level shifts. The moment you choose love over fear, the moment you choose release over retribution, the moment you choose to be here, truly here, instead of lost in a memory or a fantasy. Let this be the moment you stop gripping the edge of your past and finally leap into the river of now. The water is not cold, it is alive. It carries you not away from yourself, but deeper into yourself, the one who never left, the one who was never hurt, the one who has only ever been waiting for this. And so here you are, not at the end, but at the threshold. Not finishing a chapter, but finally putting down a book that never truly reflected your soul. There is no final page when it comes to awakening, only a deepening. A soft unfolding into the truth that's been waiting in silence beneath every grasp, every ache, every letting go. You no longer need to chase transformation. You are the transformation. Not because you did something miraculous, but because you allowed what was always miraculous within you to rise. Like a lotus from the dark waters, like light through a cracked sky, like breath returning after forgetting how to breathe. And what have you really released? Not the memory, not the lesson, not even the love. You have released the weight, the heaviness of needing it to be different, the burden of needing answers from what was only ever meant to pass through. You have stopped arguing with what already island. And that is how peace is born, not from getting what you wanted, but from no longer needing to fight what island. There is no need to go back. There is no need to explain yourself to the past. It will not understand you now. The one who lived that story is not the one standing here. That version of you, the one who carried, who clung, who believed they had to hold on just to survive, is bowed out with grace, not in failure, but in fulfillment. Their journey was not wrong. It was just complete. And you are no longer surviving. You are living. Now you walk forward with empty hands, but a full heart. You walk not as someone seeking wholeness, but as wholeness in motion. You no longer define yourself by what you've lost, but by what you are willing to receive. Not from fear, but from freedom. You understand now that letting go was never about pushing away. It was about creating space. Sacred, fertile space where presence can breathe, where truth can rise, where your soul can finally stretch its wings after so many seasons of hiding. And when the echoes of the past come, as they sometimes will, like gentle waves reaching for your shore, you will not fight them. You will not invite them to stay. You will smile and let them pass. Because now you know the difference between pain and identity, between remembering and reliving, between what shaped you and what defines you. You walk differently now, not because the road has changed, but because you have. You are rooted in something deeper, guided not by fear, but by faith. And not the kind of faith that needs everything to be certain, but the kind that trusts in the deeper rhythm of things. The kind of faith that knows whatever comes, I will meet it with grace. Because you've discovered the most powerful truth of all, that peace is not the absence of difficulty, but the absence of inner resistance. And when you no longer resist life, life no longer resists you. It flows through you, as you, for you. So go forward, not to arrive, but to expand. Not to seek, but to express. Not to heal, but to embody the healing that has already taken place. Go forward with the quiet, knowing that nothing you've let go of was ever meant to stay. And everything you are stepping into was waiting for you to release the weight. You cannot move forward holding on. And now, at last, you are free. Free not because the world changed, but because you did. Because you answered the call that echoed through the chambers of your soul. The call that said, let it go, let it fall away, let it be, and come home to who you truly are. That is the final note, not an ending, but an arrival. And in this arrival, you will discover you were never incomplete, only carrying what was never yours to hold. And now, finally, your hands are open. Your heart is open, and so is the rest of your life. Amen. If you quiet yourself, truly quiet yourself, not just in body, but in mind and thought and expectation, you'll begin to feel it. A pulse, a presence, not outside you, but within. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, and yet it holds the entire cosmos in its whisper. It is what you are. It is what you have always been. You are not a mistake, not a random flicker of biology, not an accident of cells and circumstance. You are a divine creation of an intelligent universe. Look at the stars, not as distant strangers, but as family. They are made of the same elements that dance in your bones. The hydrogen in your breath, the carbon in your blood, the iron in your will, born in the womb of stars that lived and died eons before your name was spoken. This universe did not stumble into you. It conspired for billions of years to make you possible. Not just as a body, not just as a name, but as a soul, a spark, a knowing. And yet, how easily we forget. How often we shrink into our egos, wear the mask of insufficiency, and carry the burden of pretending to be someone smaller than the truth of our being. We believe we are our worries. We believe we are our pain. We believe we are the stories we were told as children. But the soul knows better. You are not here to chase approval. You are not here to seek permission. You are here to remember, to awaken, to rise into what has always been yours, the truth of your divinity, the presence of your source. This source is not above you or outside you. It is not found in a distant temple or locked inside a dogma. It is in the breath you just took. It is in the silence between your thoughts. It is the I am behind every I am not enough. You see, the moment you say, I am not, you deny the very essence of what the universe created you to be. Because the universe never made a mistake. It made you. It made you not to live in fear, but in wonder. Not to shrink in shame, but to expand in light. Not to repeat the pain of the past, but to redeem it with the power of presence. Every leaf, every tide, every sunrise and starry sky is a reminder that the intelligence that governs it all is the same intelligence that lives in you. And it does live in you. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to seek it. You don't even have to understand it. You only have to remember what it feels like to be still, to breathe without rushing, to walk without destination, to feel without defense. This is the sacred return. The return to the soul, the return to the knowing that you are not separate. You are not broken. You are not late. You are not lost. You are unfolding exactly as the stars unfold, in divine rhythm, in perfect timing. And when the world tries to tell you otherwise, when it says you are only what you produce, only what you look like, only what you've achieved, you must become the sacred rebel. You must say no, not with anger, but with grace. With the deep, unwavering grace of someone who has remembered who they are. You are not your thoughts. You are not your past. You are not your doubt. You are not your ego. You are consciousness wrapped in form. You are love, remembering itself. You are the breath of the divine, walking the earth in human skin. And this life, this temporary experience, is not a test to be passed, but a miracle to be witnessed. It's not about getting somewhere. It's about becoming aware of where you already are. You are already in the presence of God, not because you found him, but because you never left. And so you arrive in this moment, not by accident, not by force, but by the quiet pull of something sacred guiding you gently home. Not home in the way the world defines it, with bricks or addresses or familiar names, but home in the soul. Home in that eternal center of being where no storm can reach, where no title is needed, and no validation required. It is the place where you no longer strive to become anything because you remember that you already are everything. This remembering is not taught by textbooks, nor can it be memorized in the traditional sense. It is the awakening of a truth that never needed proving, only uncovering. Like a seed doesn't learn to grow, it simply surrenders to the light. so too must we. Not strive, but surrender. Not resist, but allow. Not control, but trust. You are a divine creation, not because of what you've done, but because of what you are. And what you are cannot be undone by fear, cannot be erased by failure, cannot be dimmed by the opinions of the world. The stars do not apologize for shining too brightly. The ocean does not hold back its tides out of modesty. Why then should you silence your light to fit into shadows you've outgrown? Every time you diminish your worth, you're arguing with the universe that made you. And the universe, this intelligent, infinite field of divine consciousness, it does not argue back. It simply continues to offer you love, unconditionally, even when you forget, even when you stumble, even when you fall asleep to your sacredness. The universe stays awake, holding you in the warmth of eternal yes. There is no condition to your belonging. There is no contract to your divinity. You don't need to achieve enlightenment. You are enlightenment, covered over by layers of forgetting. Let go now. Let go of the need to be understood by those who cannot yet see. Let go of the addiction to proving your value. Let go of the story that says you are not worthy of joy, as if joy were something earned and not the natural fragrance of your being. Healing begins the moment you stop chasing a version of yourself that was never real. The moment you say, I no longer need to become, I choose to return. Return to the stillness beneath the noise. Return to the breath that rises without your permission. Return to the self that was never lost, only hidden beneath layers of fear, guilt, and doubt. And when you return, truly return, you begin to see differently. You begin to speak differently. You begin to live differently. Not with force, but with grace. Not with performance, but with presence. Not with desperation, but with sacred trust. Because what you radiate from within is far more powerful than anything you could ever acquire from outside. Peace is not the result of fixing the world around you. It is the fruit of remembering the world within you. The ego will try to convince you otherwise. It will whisper of scarcity, of comparison, of fear. It will tell you there's not enough time, love, attention, meaning, but your soul knows better. Your soul speaks in abundance, in generosity, in quiet knowing. Your soul doesn't race, it expands. It doesn't fight, it allows. It doesn't grasp, it trusts. So listen, not with your ears, but with your being. There is wisdom rising in you like morning light over still water. Soft, clear, undeniable. It says, you are not broken. You are becoming. You are not late. You are right on time. You are not forgotten. You are the breath of God remembering itself. And when you live from that place, when you begin to identify not with the mass, but with the essence, then all the striving begins to soften. Then the need to prove dissolves into the joy of simply being. You stop trying to earn what you've already been given. You begin to serve, not to be seen, but because you see. You love not to be loved, but because you are love. And suddenly the universe does not feel distant. It feels familiar. It feels like home. It feels like you. And in that sacred realization, something within you begins to shift, not as a sudden eruption, but as a gentle unfolding. The petals of your awareness bloom one by one, revealing the eternal truth that was always there, waiting for your readiness, not your worthiness. Because you have always been worthy. Not because of what you've done, but because of what you are, an extension of the infinite, wrapped in skin, gifted with breath, invited to remember. There is a divine choreography to your life. A rhythm beneath the noise, a song beneath the silence. The people you've met, the pain you've endured, the detours, the delays, the heartbreaks, and even the breakdowns, none of them were punishments. They were callings. Whispers from the soul saying, wake up, there is more. More than survival, more than pleasing, more than the shallow waters of pretending to be okay. You came here to dive deep into truth, into light, into freedom. But freedom is not found in the outer world. It is not dependent on circumstances aligning with your preferences. True freedom begins the moment you stop believing every thought the ego feeds you. It begins when you realize that you are not the one who suffers. You are the one who notices the suffering. You are not the pain. You are the space in which pain appears and through which healing can flow. And when you allow yourself to become still enough, you begin to feel that space expanding inside you. It's the space where love enters, not the conditional love you've been taught to chase, the kind that arrives only if you perform, conform, or transform. No, this love does not require shape-shifting. It requires surrender. It is the love that says, you were enough even before you tried. And in that love, shame cannot live. Judgment melts, the past loses its grip. Because this love doesn't negotiate, it doesn't audit your worth. It simply shines. You are here to shine that same light, not as a copy, not as an imitation, but as your own sacred expression of the divine whole. You are a unique breath in the lungs of the cosmos. You are not here to be someone else's version of success. You are here to be your soul's original note in the great symphony of existence. And when you express that note, when you live in alignment with your soul rather than your ego, the world changes. Not because you force it to, but because you've become the presence that no longer resists, no longer clings, no longer hides. You become a lighthouse. You no longer chase ships, you simply shine. And people will feel it. They may not know what it is, but they will feel safer in your presence. Not because you have answers, but because you're no longer pretending. You're no longer at war with yourself. And that peace is contagious. You were not meant to live in hiding. You were meant to remember. You were meant to rise. You were meant to release the illusion of separation and rest in the knowing that you are the universe experiencing itself through a single sacred lifetime. Not everyone will understand your awakening. Not everyone is meant to, but that does not mean you are wrong. It means you are listening to a frequency that others have not yet tuned into. Stay with it. Stay true. Trust the rhythm of your own becoming. And as you continue to awaken, not through effort, but through presence, you begin to see life not as something happening to you, but something happening through you. You are not a passive recipient of fate. You are a co-creator of reality, not in some grand mystical performance, but in every choice you make from love instead of fear. Every moment you listen instead of react. Every breath you take consciously rather than by habit. These small sacred acts realign you with the intelligent rhythm of the universe itself. For this universe, this boundless field of intelligence does not demand worship. It does not crave obedience. It asks only that you remember your role in the great unfolding, not as a servant, but as a spark, not as a prisoner of fate, but as a partner in creation. You are not here to obey an outside authority, but to honor the divine authority within. That whisper inside, the one that nudges you to pause when the world shouts, the one that stirs tears when truth is spoken, the one that urges you toward kindness when revenge tempts you. That voice is not your conscience. It is your connection. Your channel to something far greater than logic can grasp. You do not need to climb any ladder to reach the divine. There is no ladder. There is only awareness. The veil between you and God is not time, it is thought. The belief that you are separate, unworthy, unready, that is the illusion. And once you see through it, once you pierce that veil, you find not a distant deity, but the gentle pulse of eternity living within your own breath. And from that sacred space, you begin to live differently. Not to impress, not to prove, but because love becomes your default setting. Compassion becomes your compass. Stillness becomes your strength. You begin to speak not to be right, but to be real. You listen not to respond, but to understand. You walk into each moment not needing to control it, but willing to meet it fully, vulnerably, authentically. This is freedom, not the freedom of doing anything you want, but the freedom of no longer being ruled by everything you fear. The freedom of no longer being a puppet of your past, no longer living through the eyes of others. This is the freedom of a soul unbound. And a soul unbound is the most powerful force on earth. Do not underestimate the radiance of someone who has remembered who they are. They walk lighter. They love deeper. They forgive faster. They move through life not as warriors, but as channels of peace, not because they are above pain, but because they have made peace with it. And when you make peace with your pain, you become a healer by presence alone. You don't need to fix people. You simply need to see them, truly see them, through the eyes of your soul, not the judgments of your mind. That is how transformation happens. Not with force, but with light. Light that sees, light that accepts, light that reminds. So let yourself be a reminder today, not by what you say, but by what you are. Be a living invitation for others to awaken, not by preaching, but by being, not by changing anyone, but by changing the way you meet the world. Let your presence say what words cannot. Let your peace speak louder than your opinion. Let your stillness echo beyond the noise. Let your joy be your proof. You don't need to convince anyone of your divinity. Just live it, and the world will feel it. Because when even one soul remembers, the whole universe breathes a little deeper. And as the breath deepens and the heart softens, you begin to witness the quiet miracle of existence with new eyes. Not the eyes taught to evaluate and compare, but the eyes of presence, those sacred lenses that see the divine in the ordinary. A leaf trembling in the wind becomes scripture. A stranger's smile becomes revelation. Your own heartbeat becomes a drumbeat of cosmic intelligence, reminding you again and again, you belong. You are held. You are enough. There is no need to hurry towards some imagined state of arrival. The soul does not measure life in milestones or achievements. It unfolds in presence. It speaks in moments. It awakens not when you have mastered the world, but when you have surrendered to the mystery of being alive. And in that surrender, you begin to understand that healing is not a destination. It is a return to the innocence you never lost, to the worth you never had to earn, to the light that never stopped shining beneath your wounds. Even your pain, even your trauma, even the shadows you've tried so hard to escape, they have served you. They have carved space inside you to hold more compassion, more humility, more light. Forgive them, not because they were right, not because you're weak, but because you're done carrying what was never yours to hold. Resentment is too heavy for a soul built to fly. Bitterness is too dense for a being of light. So release. Release the stories of not being chosen. Release the narratives of not being good enough. Release the belief that your past defines your worth. You are not what happened to you. You are what rose from it. You are the awareness that watched the pain, not the pain itself. And once you realize that, once you live from that truth, you become unshakable, not because life stops throwing storms, but because you no longer fear getting wet. You no longer mistake the thunder for truth. You no longer run from rain that was meant to cleanse you. In this intelligent universe, nothing is wasted. Not a tear, not a failure, not a single detour. Every experience is a thread in the tapestry of your awakening. Every contrast is a mirror showing you more of what you truly are. Every closed door is a compass redirecting you back to your soul's alignment. And that alignment is not rigid. It is fluid, like water. It flows around obstacles. It carves through resistance. It finds its way not by force, but by the certainty of its nature. You don't need to figure it all out. You just need to trust the flow. Not the chaotic flow of the world, but the sacred flow of the Spirit within you. It knows. It always has. Even when you doubted, even when you wandered, even when you forgot, because forgetting is part of remembering. The fall is part of the rising. The silence is part of the song. And darkness, it is not the opposite of light. It is the womb in which light is born. You are being born again, not in body, but in awareness. And every time you return to the now, to the breath, to the truth of your being, you are reborn. A little softer, a little wiser, a little more you. There is a sacred intelligence flowing through all things seen and unseen, known and unknown, and you are not separate from it. You are not an outsider looking in. You are not a visitor to this miracle. You are the miracle. You are the breath of that intelligence, made visible, made tangible, made conscious. And when you remember that, truly remember, you walk differently in the world. You walk not in fear, but in faith. Not in reaction, but in response. Not in scarcity, but in the quiet power of knowing you are always supported, always guided, always enough. The mind may protest, of course it always does. It will raise its voice in the language of logic, demanding proof and outcomes and plans, but the soul doesn't speak in that tongue. The soul speaks in feeling, in presence, in intuition. And the more you listen, the more you'll notice how much life opens when you stop needing to control it. Surrender is not weakness. Surrender is strength in its purest form. It is the strength of water that wears down stone. It is the strength of silence that outlasts the loudest noise. You don't have to force your healing. You don't have to demand transformation. You only have to be willing to look within, willing to let go of who you were taught to be so that you can remember who you've always been. You are not here to earn love. You are here to realize it. You are not here to escape your humanness. You are here to embrace it as the holy vessel for your divine essence. The two are not in conflict. They are dance partners, earth and sky, breath and stillness, form and formlessness. Let yourself be danced. Let yourself be moved by something older than thought and deeper than language. You don't need to know every step. You only need to remain open. The universe delights in your openness. It rushes into every space you clear with a generosity you cannot imagine. But it waits. It never forces. It only flows where it is welcomed. So welcome it. Invite it into the cracks, into the questions, into the ordinary rhythms of your day. That is where the sacred lives, in the smallest things, the simplest moments, the quietest breaths. You were not sent here to build a kingdom of noise. You were sent here to remember the silence beneath it all. That silence is not empty. It is full of wisdom, full of light, full of the very intelligence that formed galaxies and flowers, and you sit with it. Let it speak to you not in words, but in a knowing that settles in your chest like peace, like coming home, like, ah, yes, I remember now. And when you do remember, the ego begins to soften. It doesn't disappear overnight. It doesn't vanish in a flash of enlightenment, but it loosens its grip. It becomes quieter, less convincing. And in that space, your true nature emerges not as a role, not as a mask, but as pure presence, as love without armor, as clarity without opinion, as being without needing to become. There is nothing more powerful than a human being who remembers they are not just a human being. There is no force more radiant than a soul at peace with its form. That is what the world needs now. Not more noise, not more speed, not more striving, but more remembrance. More individuals who walk in stillness, who speak from truth, who live with gentleness, who embody their divine nature not through performance, but through presence. You don't need a title to be sacred. You don't need a stage to be radiant. Your life is the altar. Your breath is the prayer. Your presence is the offering. And when you offer it sincerely, life responds. Not always in the way your mind expects, but always in the way your soul needs. Trust that. Trust the delays. Trust the detours. Trust even the endings, for they are often disguised beginnings. And above all, trust yourself. Not the self built on achievement or identity, but the deeper self, the quiet watcher, the steady presence, the eternal essence. That self has never been afraid. That self has never been broken. That self does not worry about outcomes because it is the outcome. It is the goal and the journey and the guide. There are no accidents in an intelligent universe. No lost moments, no wasted days. Everything is part of the masterpiece, even the messy strokes, even the unfinished edges. Even the times you thought you failed, you never failed, you felt. And feeling is the fingerprint of the soul on the canvas of life. Keep painting, keep feeling. Keep trusting that what's unfolding through you is holy beyond description. There is a light in you that cannot be dimmed, not by heartbreak, not by loss, not by time. It is the same light that birthed the stars and holds the tides. And it lives within you, waiting not to be earned, but to be remembered. So remember, not once, not twice, but again and again, as often as the world tempts you to forget. Let your life be a living act of remembrance. Let your breath remind the body of its belonging. Let your presence awaken others, not through noise, but through peace. And when you forget, because you will come back, just come back. With tenderness, with curiosity, with no judgment. Every return is a resurrection. Every breath is a new beginning. Every moment is the invitation to remember what has always been true. You are not separate from the source. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are not too much. You are it. You are the divine, dreaming itself into form, waking up to its own reflection in your eyes, your hands, your heart. This is the truth. It does not need convincing. It only needs remembering. And now, you remember?